What's going on, guys? Nick here with Clutch Killers, and today I'm throwing the Rotofab intake into my Camaro SS. So I'm gonna get the process started of replacing the stock airbox and intake with the Rotofab one. I'm gonna put as much of the intake together as I can in the house because I don't wanna be out here in the beating sun. And then once I'm done with that, I'm gonna bring it out here and I'm gonna install it. So this tube comes with it. You slide it in through the back here on this side of the airbox. It's only one way that it will truly fit. And align all the screws with the holes on the airbox, and then this then slides on this way, and so that this connects the tube here with the airbox. Looks pretty good. There's only one way to line up, but to make it easier for yourself, just keep in mind that the MAF sensor has to be facing inwards to the engine bay. In other words, that way would be the bumper, this way would be the engine bay, and the MAF sensor is pointing a little bit upwards, right? So this is completely level with the floor. The MAF sensor points towards the sky. They make a note here that you have to use the screws that they provide you when putting the MAF sensor back in. Otherwise, using the stock screws will destroy the brass inserts. It's some strong language, but anyways, don't use the stock screws for these two little screw holes right here. Okay, so now this bad boy, the hose coupler, this thing gets put on to this tube, and we want to put the number 11 clamp in there first. That way we you know, obviously if you put it in there after, you won't be able to get it around. So we put this on first and we can slide it back on and tighten it up. Make sure this is the bigger of the two clamps. It comes with a pair of smaller ones and a pair of bigger ones. You want to use the bigger ones. Okay, we got the Big Daddy air filter right here. This thing is huge. It comes with its own hose clamp, so don't spend 20 minutes looking for one like I did because it has one already attached onto it. So now what we're gonna do is just strap it on in there. And these grooves right here align up with the grooves that are on the inside of this connector on the filter here, so it prevents it from falling off, which is pretty cool. So you're not gonna wanna do what I'm about to do. I put the air filter in the airbox before actually putting the airbox in the car, which is gonna make it incredibly harder for me to seat the airbox. So just wait until the airbox is in the car and then install the filter. And there we go. You tighten that down with your flathead, and there we go. So this piece is pretty much completely done. After this, all you have is the actual intake tube that goes to another one of these little hose thingies, which connects to the throttle body. So this is the bulk of it. The way I oriented this filter here, so it was a little tricky to figure out how to orient it because it's not a complete circle on this side, or at least for me it wasn't, but you know, it's rubber, so it molds around whatever you want it to, so it perfectly fits. And then what I just did is I oriented it such that this Rotofab logo here is, parallel with the ground. So the flat side of this is facing up, which looks good. All right, so now that I put everything together here in this box, I'm gonna go ahead and take out the stock one and throw in the Rotofab one. Also, a wasp flew into my engine bay, so if that happens to come out on camera and kill me, you guys will get to see that. All right, so first order of business is to take out this intake tube here. I already took out this plug. Note that if you don't have this plug here, and instead you have a tube that routes underneath into your firewall, that means you don't have the sound delete tube. You have the sound tube that wires sound into the cabin. The 2SS will have this plug. The 1SS has the tube. That's, to my knowledge, how it works. So, and depending on what system you get, what variation you get of the Rotofab intake, it'll match whatever you have here. So if you have the tube, it'll come with a tube that allows you to install that, and if not, it won't. I've changed into black, which I think is a much better idea. Still gonna ruin the shorts, but they've already got grease stains on them. So now we're gonna take out the MAF sensor, which is right here. Keep in mind the orientation of the MAF sensor once you take it out, because you have to put it in the exact same way, obviously. Okay, and then I just lifted out the stock airbox. It's only held in my ball joints, so that was just really easy. You grab on both sides and just pry it out. So yeah, we got a very empty engine bay right now. And we're gonna go in. First thing I'm gonna do is install the new Rotofab airbox with all the parts it needs already put on, because I did myself that favor in advance. Then the little hose tube right here, and then the air tube that connects the two. It'll be very simple from here on out. It's reminiscent of something very inappropriate. Look at how many leaves are in my airbox, dude. This is the stock airbox. I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's leaves in there, like sand, dirt. Oh my God. Here's the Rotofab airbox. We just gotta plop it on in. All right, this part can be a little tricky, but I'm pretty sure I figured it out. So this is the airbox, obviously, and it connects into the actual, where the car actually brings the air in down here. And you have to align it perfectly. See how it's completely perfect? There's not a single, it's hard to get an angle. But this is the OEM piece, this is the airbox. You have to wrap that around. The instructions will tell you how to do it perfectly, a lot better than I can, but as long as it's sealed perfectly, you'll be fine. All right, intake filter is now back in. Definitely wait till this is on before you put this on. You're gonna thank yourself later. And now what we gotta do is tube here, clamp, 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 and then the MAF back in. All right, this was a struggle. Getting this tube in, it was clashing with this over and over again. You can see how many times I scraped it. Just didn't want to go in for some reason at all. But eventually I got it in by holding it upright and then sliding it into this one, rotating it down, and then into that one. So everything's where it should be now. It looks fantastic. I mean, I love how this looks. I'm gonna go ahead and reconnect the negative terminal on the battery and then start her up. All right, so I was able to get everything installed, thank God. I'm gonna go take it on a quick run, make sure everything's, running right. I started it up, it sounded fine. The intake noise is definitely louder and it sounds really good. So I'm just gonna take it for a little test run, not gonna go crazy with it, just wanna make sure everything is reading right, the MAF sensor's working right, all that. I apologize for the crappy lighting. It's completely dark out right now. I just went for a nice drive cruise with the new intake installed. I'm really impressed by how this intake behaves and how it kind of changes the throttle response. One of my goals when installing this intake was to get better, more immediate throttle response. And that's definitely something I've noticed, is that opening the throttle, the manual guys would know this. You have an automatic, you're not going to notice this as much in the Camaros, but for the manual people, when you first get on the throttle, you feel sort of a jerk from the throttle initially opening. It's a lot smoother than that now, which is something I've wanted to change since I got this car, so that's great. Does it feel any faster? No. An intake isn't going to make your car feel any faster, but I do have the clips of before and after, doing the polls before and doing them after, so we're going to see how those stack up and if I see any gains meaning like quicker acceleration times. One thing that I kind of messed up, I think, is that the PCV, there's like a little piece, like an elbow piece that screws into the intake tube. I think I didn't screw that in enough because it was a very tight thread when I was putting it in, so I didn't want to over tighten it. So I only screwed it in about halfway. I gave it 2 more rotations because I was noticing just like a small bit of rev hang, just enough for me to notice it. Nothing like that would just like ruin the car or anything, but I was noticing it. So I went in because I thought, maybe it's that PCV, that elbow piece, and I gave it 2 more full rotations, screwing it in more, which is hard because it's tight, but it eliminated all of that. So I could have been imagining it, but I really don't think I was. I think maybe there's a little air leaking in But either way, those 2 extra rotations took care of that. It feels completely normal now. So it just feels enhanced from stock, right? It doesn't feel that much faster, obviously, but the throttle just does, it feels just that extra notch smoother. And of course the intake noise, and it adds a lot of engine noise too, which is great, because I who doesn't love hearing their engine? But yeah, the intake noise, and if you have the rev match downshift, as soon as you pull it into that gear and it starts that downshift, you hear the intake. Oh, it's beautiful. It's so good. All right, guys, so there she is, my Camaro with her new intake installed. It's actually been a few weeks. This is not right after the install. I've been driving this thing around for a while now, and I can thoroughly say that I really do love this intake. Aside from maybe adding 5 or 10 horsepower, the sound it makes and the smoothness it adds to the throttle is just so worth it. So the big question now is, how much faster is the car? Well, this video got longer than I expected, so I'm gonna include those runs in another video, but the link will be the first thing in the description, so go check that out. I did like 50 to 100 pulls, 60 to 120s, and the results are kind of cool, so go check it out. That being said, Rotofab did a great job. Love this intake, not too hard to install, and I hope my video makes it easier. I appreciate you guys so much for watching. Don't forget you can get your Clutch Killers merch, link in the bio for that. Check me out on Instagram, on TikTok. I post every single day, multiple times a day, so go check out all that content. If you like this video and you want to support everything I'm doing on this channel, make sure to give me a like and subscribe. That being said, thank you guys for watching. I'm Nick. Have a nice day.